Hey Skate World, it's ESK8 Hooligan here, and I know it's been a while since I put out a video, but it's been really crappy weather here lately, so haven't been able to get out and do any riding, and I've been working really hard on getting this video put together. I think you're going to really like what we discussed today, because we're going to actually begin to do some comparisons of the Hurricane, the Zeus, and the GTS. These are three boards that are very popular right now. These are three boards that kind of fall into the same class of quality and style and durability and all that kind of stuff. So I want to compare these boards. And when I first started putting this video together, it was going to be like an hour long. And I thought, you guys are not going to watch an hour long video. So I'm actually breaking this video up into segments. And we're going to talk about that segment here in just a little bit. Before we get into the video, there's two shout outs that I want to do. First of all, ESK8 CON 2022 in Las Vegas, Nevada, March 26th and 27th. Got your tickets yet? Links down below. Get your tickets. I've got mine. I'm planning on being there with these three boards. Going to run me about 1,000 miles out, about 1,000 miles back. But I plan to be there for the entire weekend. Looking forward to it. Second shout out that I want to do is I've been doing a lot of research on wheels, bushings, bearings, that kind of stuff. I came across a set of bearings that I'm kind of impressed with. And so these are the Radical Black Mamba ABEC 9 bearings. I came across these, did some research on them, and decided I'm going to go ahead and buy a set of these just to try and to see how much or how well they were. These I got off Amazon. Cost me a whole $15, I think it was. And I have to admit, I was pretty impressed with these bearings. Just to kind of show you the quality of these bearings, we're going to do a spin test while I talk a little bit about them. So we're going to do the spin test on the Zeus. I am running these bearings on the Zeus and the GTS. And we're going to spin the front tire. We're going to start our timer. We're going to see if we can get that timer to stand up there. And I'm going to explain a little bit about this, these bearings, and then there's something I want to show you at the end of that wheel spinning. So again, these are the Radical Black Mamba ABEC 9s. These are a Chinese battery, bearing. Sorry, some people may not like that, but it is what it is. These have the built-in spacer, so when you put the two together you get the perfect spacing. They are to the best of my knowledge, I believe they are a steel ball bearing. They're not a ceramic. If I'm wrong, someone correct me, but I believe they are a steel bearing. I really like these. The GTS always did have a really good free coast to it, even downhill, but when I put them in here, got them warmed up a little bit, it improved considerably. The Zeus never really did have a great freewheeling down a hill. I still had to stay on the throttle a little bit. But after putting these in and again warming it up a little bit, they actually improved. This board really improved in the freewheeling going down your hill. So I really do recommend these. I like them. Again, Amazon, 15 bucks. Do I recommend them? Yeah. Do I, should you go out and buy them? That's going to be entirely up to you. There'll be a link down below that you can go research these. Something you want to pick up, you may want to consider doing that. Now let's take a look at that wheel. That wheel has been spinning for 1 minute and 47 seconds, and it's still spinning quite a bit. I'm going to hang with that wheel for just a little bit. Hang with me because this is worth it. You all know that most wheels are not perfectly balanced on every side, and neither are the Cloud Wheels 120s that I'm running. So what's going to happen here is normally when these wheels would lose their momentum, they kind of get to that ending point and they just stop. I want to show you what this wheel is going to actually do that I think further demonstrates the quality and the smoothness of these and the precision of these actual bearings. Okay, so hang with me for just a second. That wheel's starting to slow down. We're at 2 minutes and 35 seconds. It's still spinning. Kind of demonstrates the precision and the smoothness of those bearings. We are now at 2 minutes 48 seconds, and it's starting to slow down a little bit. Again, it's worth it. It's worth it. Hang with me just a little bit longer. That wheel is going to eventually come to an end of the momentum, but then I want you to watch what that wheel does when it actually stops spinning. It's done it every single time. Now watch, this time it probably won't do it, but I think it will. We're going to find out here in just a minute. Here we go. See how that wheel spins backwards? And then it's going to come back up, it's going to stop, and it's going to spin back forward. That demonstrates to me the precision and the smoothness of those bearings. Again, I'm running it on the GTS and the Zeus, and I noticed a huge difference. Once they kind of got broke in a little bit, it took a couple miles to get them broke in. But again, these are the Radical Black Mamba ABEC 9. Got them off Amazon, 15 bucks. And you might want to check them out. Okay, let's get into the boards a little bit here. And in order for me to do this, I'm going to switch out some boards. So give me just a second, because I do want these boards to basically be in a specific position on the table for a reason. Oops. I'm not putting them in order of likeness. What I'm doing is, this will become very apparent here in just a little bit. Just kind of show you how serious I'm taking this. We are going to perfectly line up the back of all these boards so that the back is perfectly straight, which then gives us kind of an idea of the overall length. Okay, and we're going to put our stuff on here, and I think we're good to go. So let's talk about these boards. Now, I will be honest with you, I have some cheat sheets, just purely and simply because I want to make sure that I'm giving you factual information and I'm not misleading you. Again, I am breaking this video into smaller segments. Today we're going to focus specifically on the decks of these boards because I think the deck is one of the really important components of a board. So let's get into these decks a little bit. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about the overall length of each of these boards. We're going to talk about nose to tail and only the physical size of the actual deck. So on the Meepo Hurricane, the physical deck is 39.5 inches long from nose to tail. The GTS nose to tail is 39.75 inches. And the Zeus is by far the shortest at 38.5 inches from nose to tail. These are carbon fiber decks across the board, so they are not flexi boards. Let's talk a little bit about the shoulder width of these boards. The Hurricane shoulder width is 10.5 inches. The GTS is 10.25 inches. And the Zeus is 10.25 inches across the shoulder. So these are pretty much in the same width as far as the shoulders of these boards. Let's talk a little bit about the weight of these boards. The Hurricane is at 33.5 pounds. The GTS is at 30.5 pounds. And the Zeus by far is the lightest. It is actually at 29.5 pounds. Now keep in mind, those are going to be a little bit different than maybe what's advertised on the website, purely and simply because of the way that I have mine actually set up. Notice that I'm running the Cloud 120s, so they might be a little bit lighter board. One of the other components that I think is really important to talk about that I don't see many people talk about, and I call it the stance width. So what I'm talking about is within the board, generally, like for example, on the Hurricane here, we have a very aggressive drop from the truck mount down into the deck on the nose and the tail. You're going to notice that there's a back shoulder and a front shoulder for which your feet will go up against. This distance, the furthest distance in what I call the stance width on the Hurricane is 27 inches. You will notice that on the GTS, it is not a very aggressive drop, but you still have a slight shoulder of which your feet are going to go up against. So the length of that, what I call the stance width, is actually 28.5 inches. So you have a little bit more distance. If you're a taller person, this might be a board that might work a little bit better for you. By far, the Zeus is going to be the shortest because it's a naturally shorter board, and it doesn't have a very aggressive drop into the board from the nose and the tail, but you do have a little bit of a shoulder there. That stance width is actually 27 inches. So this board fits me really well because I'm a shorter person. I've got a little bit more area to work with on the GTS because it's a longer board. And the Hurricane fits very well also. It has a much more aggressive nose and tail shoulder. So if those distances help you pick which board is going to work the best for you, then that's something to take a look at. Let's talk a little bit about the grip tape on these boards. The grip tape on the Hurricane is a very aggressive, a very coarse grip tape. I really like this grip tape. It grips into the bottom of my shoes and really locks me into the board. The GTS actually has a sandpaper grip tape to it, but it also has a foam backing so that it absorbs some of the shock of the road vibrations and the road noise. The same way with the Zeus, it has a sandpaper grip tape. It also has the foam, and it too absorbs some of that ground shock when you're out riding and you're hitting some of the imperfections in the concrete. All three of these boards have a top mount access to the battery and the ESC or VSCs. Okay, so you can just pull a series of screws out of these. The middle section will come out and you can get to the battery of these boards. Okay, now this is where I want to talk a little bit and actually demonstrate something to you, because I think the concaveness or the lack of concaveness to these boards is really important because it does affect the control and your stance on the board. So to demonstrate that, we're going to grab a level. We're going to run a level across these three boards. And something that you're going to notice immediately is that the level is riding or sitting on the shoulders of the Hurricane, and it's riding and sitting on the shoulders of the Zeus. You'll also notice the center of this level is perfectly level. So not only is my floor level, my table level, but these boards are actually level. So let's take a look at this. When we take a look at the Hurricane, or the Hurricane, you're going to notice that I have no issue with running the ruler between the level and the deck. The same way here with the GTS, but I'm going to show you something. Notice that the GTS is not even resting or touching anywhere with this level. And we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. Also, you'll notice that I can insert the ruler between the Zeus deck and the bottom, but there is not as much of a room between the bottom of the level and the deck. So let's talk about that for a second. The Zeus, from the bottom of the level down to the top of the deck, you have about 10 millimeters. That is in the center, okay? So you have about 10 millimeters from the bottom of the level to the top of the deck. On the Hurricane, you have about 14 millimeters between the bottom of the level and the top of the deck. Now, these two decks have the W shape to them, So they do have a rise in the middle. You really can't see it, but you can definitely feel it in your shoes. The Zeus does not have that. The one thing that I will tell you is that when I step on the Hurricane and when I step on the GTS, I feel it because I have a really high arch, and that center part lands right in my arch, and I feel really connected with these boards because it really fits the contour of my foot because I have that large arch. I don't feel it as much in the Zeus because it's really not there. I'm probably not as connected. Doesn't mean I don't like this board any less anymore, but I don't feel that in there. That hopefully gives you a little bit of an idea of the concaveness, but let's do one more thing. We're going to move this level back, and then we're going to grab a second level, and we're going to put it specifically on the GTS. So we're going to move our other boards out a little bit, and let's take a look at the GTS. Notice that it is resting on the shoulders. Notice that it is perfectly level, and when I take the ruler and I go down the center of this, I cannot slide that ruler between the level and the deck. There is no room. Remember that there is a W shape, so right in the middle of where that hump is, there is no room. If I go out to the shoulders, I can slide the ruler through there. There's not much room, but I can slide it through on each side. So what that kind of demonstrates is that by far your Hurricane is the most aggressive in the concave. The Zeus is very aggressive, but not as much. And the GTS is a very flat board, okay? Now, the other thing that I want to point out to you is, remember earlier I talked about the fact that the GTS was not resting. The Hurricane and the Zeus are a much thicker board. The GTS is a thinner board, and you can see that right here because the level is sitting up higher on the GTS than it is on all the other boards. Does that mean that there is not as much rigidity in this? No. The GTS is a very rigid board. I have noticed no difference between it than the other two boards. It's just the fact that the battery enclosure on the other two is a little bit thicker, causing these boards to be thicker than the actual GTS. I love all three of these boards. I really like the GTS purely and simply because, as you see, I like maroon. I love the maroon color. I think it just really stands out and is an eye-catching board. That hopefully kind of gives you a little bit of an idea as to the concaveness and the shape of these decks. Again, carbon fiber, very stiff. They are not flexi boards. They're a very stiff board. Okay? Let's pull our levels off for a second here. And one of the other things that we're going to talk just a little bit about is some of the things on the decks that kind of give it what I call a complete feeling. You're going to notice that on the Hurricane, we have some very nice truck mount covers. In the back, we've got a plain matte black with a plain matte black, but we do have the orange arrow on the front of that truck mount. And I think it just adds a finished look to the board. You're going to notice on the GTS, it has a flush mount in the front with a very nice red accent to it. And in the back, this is actually the VSC that sits right here. It is covered by a mount that is rubberized, so it protects that VSC not only from being bumped around, but also probably from moisture and stuff like that. The Zeus does have a truck mount plate that allows me to stick my finger through. So there are no full covers on the Zeus. Is that a deal breaker? Absolutely not. I still really love the Zeus. As if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that by far I really like the Zeus. But it does have the drop or the hole that I can stick my finger through. So the decks on these boards are extremely well designed, if you want a lot of control in your heels and your toes, and you want an aggressive control, you're probably going to want to look at the Hurricane. If you are looking for something that is a flat deck that maybe has a little bit of a W, maybe you get that arch thing going, you're going to probably want to take a look at the GTS. The Zeus I fit into really well with the Zeus. It's a shorter board. It does have a very aggressive concave look to it and in the shoulders. So I think all three of these have done a great job with the design of these boards. It's just whether you want a thinner, more flat board, or you want a thicker, more aggressive board, or you want something maybe in between. Now, what I'm also going to do is we're going to do follow-up videos on this, because we're going to talk about the batteries, ESCs, and the motors on all three of these. We're going to compare them in a separate video. We're going to take a look at the pulleys, the belts, and the wheels in another separate video. We're going to take a look at the trucks in a fourth video. And then in the fifth video, we're going to actually get into some acceleration and braking tests. These three boards are completely different beasts when it comes to acceleration and braking. And I'm not going to get into it now. I'm going to talk a little bit about it later on in the subsequent video. Hopefully we'll get some decent weather and we can get outside and do some actual real hard testing with these boards. Hopefully you picked up something good out of this in regards to the decks and maybe which board might be best for you or might fit you better. Hopefully you can see the difference in the thickness, the concaveness, as well as the grip tape. I think, a lot of people may write off grip tape. I think it's very important to me because I do like to feel really connected with the board, and that grip tape helps me out. Hopefully you found something of value in this video today. If you did, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button down there. Do not forget about ESK8 CON 2022 in Las Vegas, Nevada, March 26th, 27th. Get your tickets. I want to see you there. And if you're interested in a decent set of bearings, again, they are not sponsoring me. They did not send these. These are mine. I'm recommending these on my own. These are the Radical Black Mamba A-Back 9. Got them off Amazon, about 15 bucks. Check them out. ESK8 Hooligan here. Ride hard, ride safe. Have a great day.